Hello, everyone. My name is Garrett Struckhoff, and I am the program coordinator for our online Masters of Environmental Engineering program. Today, we'll be going through some information that you need, as well as introducing some of our faculty members so that you can be a little more familiar with us as you move through the program, and also more familiar with our policies. I'm going to start by sharing my screen here. This presentation will be available for you as well if you request it, or perhaps we'll just send it out to everybody. But as you can see, there's my name. Garrett Struckhoff. I'm the program coordinator, and we'll just go ahead and get into it. So welcome to CSUF, first of all. And I have a couple questions that I'll ask you guys, just kind of a pop quiz for those of you that might be new to Cal State Fullerton. So first of all, do you know who our mascot is here at Cal State Fullerton? And if this were a face-to-face orientation as we have in the past, hopefully some of you would raise your hand and you would point out that it is indeed Tuffy the Titan is our mascot there. If you look back at the history of Cal State Fullerton, having the Titans as the mascot, they actually used to have elephant races back in, I think, the 50s and 60s. They had elephant races across campus, which sounds pretty awesome, actually. Do you know how many students we have here at CSUF? Of course, I have no idea if that's going to change for this coming semester with everything being up in the air. But in the past few years, it's been around 40,000 students. And that's at the undergraduate and the graduate level. Naturally, being a CSU, we have primarily undergraduate students, but we do have a robust graduate program as well. How long is the program? Well, that question actually can really depend upon a couple different scenarios. Yes, as a student, you have the choice to take one class per semester if you want. You can take 4 classes per semester if you want. But generally speaking, most students take 2 classes per semester and finish in 5 semesters. So that's 2 years and 1 summer, with the summer in between. And unfortunately, for those who want to be a little bit more flexible than that, we currently do not offer the 2 classes that are offered in the summer, which is 581 and 582, are currently only offered in the summer. We have plans to offer them at other times in the future. Those plans, much like many other things in life, have been kind of put on hold at the moment with everything else being all up in the air. But soon we would like to offer those classes in the spring and or fall. Probably offer one of them in the spring, one of them in the fall, to allow students who don't want to take classes in the summer to be more flexible. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about our national rankings. We'll talk about the program this way. Along with software engineering, because they just group all the engineering programs together, we're ranked 26th in the nation for online graduate engineering programs by U.S. News and World Reports. And that may seem like a number that's not something necessarily to brag about, but something we can brag about. 2 things, actually. We're first among schools without PhD programs. So PhD programs typically mean more external funding, which means more money, and money a lot of times translates to better rankings because you can afford to spend money to increase your rankings. So, for example, we're also, by the way, 3rd in the state of California, and the only 2 ahead of us are UCLA and USC. And I think you know that both those schools, USC in particular, have a lot of money that they can use to kind of influence how the rankings are done. It's a little bit dire, but I've participated in the ranking a couple times now, and the questions are somewhat bizarre and easily influenced if you have the funds. We're also 9th west of the Mississippi River, so we're doing pretty well as an online graduate engineering program, which explains possibly why you guys are here to begin with. We're also very, very inexpensive. You hopefully know that if you are a California resident, the entire program, except for testing fees and books, is less than $15,000. Which, honestly, when I learned that, I thought to myself, that is a bargain. And then among that, it doesn't necessarily come out unless you're a paid subscriber to U.S. News and World Report, but we're also ranked 3rd in the nation for our faculty. And that's because traditionally we've been entirely full-time tenured faculty members, or tenure track faculty members teaching in the program. We do actually have 2 adjunct faculty right now, that one of whom is a Cal State Fullerton undergraduate recipient, and actually master's too. He got a master's in civil engineering. And then another one of our part-time faculty, which we'll introduce coming up here, he was a alum of our master's program, the online master's. So faculty introductions. Here we have Dr. Kuo, Dr. Kurwadkar, Dr. Mishra, and myself, and then Dr. Vinod Tiwari as well. Dr. Tiwari is currently actually our AVP, which is Associate Vice President of Research and Sponsored Projects. So he's pretty busy, and he's not teaching in the program at the moment. And that's why Mr. Michael Mann is teaching 515 now. You can see that. So 515 is taught by one of our graduates because Dr. Tuari is otherwise indisposed, taking care of all the grants and everything that come through our university. Dr. Kuo and Dr. Kurwadkar and Dr. Mishra and myself, actually not me because I'm doing this right now, but they provided videos and introductions as well. So in the next couple minutes, you're going to cut me off and you'll be able to see what they have to say about, they're welcoming you to Cal State Fullerton as well. And like I mentioned, we have two adjunct faculty. Dr. Choi is, he works in the lab at, I believe, Orange County Sanitation District. Although he may have moved, but I think that's where he works. Mr. Michael Mann is also working. Like I said, he's a master's graduate of ours as well. Okay, so that said, I'll step back from the camera right now and allow you to hear what Dr. Kurwadkar, Dr. Mishra, and Dr. Kuo have to say in terms of welcoming you to our program. And you'll see me back in just a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Dr. Fullerton Mishra, Department Chair of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I welcome you to our nationally recognized online program in environmental engineering. I also welcome you to the CEE family. In our department, we have undergraduate program in civil engineering and two graduate programs. One of them is online program in environmental engineering, and the other one is a graduate program in civil engineering. Our civil engineering graduate program covers all of the core areas of the civil engineering. All our programs are nationally recognized, and recently our undergraduate program was ranked nationally among the top 10 in the nation by US World News and Report. In this program, you will be taught by the very best professors in the department. The program is designed to provide you the practical knowledge needed to be successful as an environmental engineer. These professors truly care about your success. They will always be there to help you. So please reach out to them and ask them questions. Learning online can be challenging, but again, please do not give up. Always seek help. You will be taking EGC 571 course with me either this semester or the next. And this course is a foundational course in engineering hydraulics and in engineering hydrology topics. Together, we will build a deeper understanding of these topics, and our focus always would be on practical application of these topics. This pandemic is not easy on any one of us, but together we will always find ways to support each other and to our community. Dr. Struckhoff would be the primary contact point for you as a graduate advisor and the program coordinator. But in case further help is needed, please feel free to reach out to me. Dr. Struckhoff will go over the policies and procedures that you need to follow as a graduate student. Please make sure to follow them carefully. And it is always better to ask questions whenever you are in doubt. Once again, I welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to be part of your academic journey at Cal State Fullerton. I wish you a very happy fall 2020 semester.
Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Kuo, K-U-O. I'm one of the faculty members teaching courses in the program. Okay, I do have a BS in chemical engineering, MS in chemical, petroleum, and environmental, and also PhD in environmental engineering from #1 school in the country. Used to be number one in football. That's USC. I did work for industries for many years before I joined Cal State Fullerton in 1991 as a part-timer. Then 1995 as a full-time faculty member. The consulting companies I work for in the States, including groundwater technology, dams and more, James Montgomery. They were pretty big. Then they were bought, merged, and changed their names. I also worked for LA County Sanitation Districts for wastewater treatment for a few years. And I do have PE licenses in chemical engineering, mechanical, civil in California. I call them my strong areas. Actually, I do have experiences in groundwater and soil remediation, water treatment, wastewater treatment, and air pollution control engineering. I would like to share my experiences with you, and all of us in the program are looking forward to working with you in this program. Thank you. See you soon.
Hello student, welcome to fall 2020 semester of MS Online Graduate Environmental Engineering Program at Cal State Fullerton. I'm very happy to welcome you for the fall semester. My name is Sudarshan Kurwadkar. Students call me Dr. K, and I would prefer that you can call me Dr. K as well. No harm in that. I mostly teach graduate project class as well as surface water pollution and control, soil and groundwater remediation, wastewater treatment and reclamation. So I teach a bunch of graduate classes, and hopefully I will see you in one of those classes. Most of my research is in the area of freight and transport of emerging contaminant of concern. Particularly, I work with pharmaceuticals, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, and I also experiment with the novel removal technologies, photochemistry-based removal. I'm a little bit into modeling also. Lately, I'm working on subsurface gas migration under the barometric pressure variation. So that's something new I'm kind of working on. It's a mostly theoretical topic. The reason why I'm telling you my research is that because I teach graduate project, so if you can choose the topic, any of the topic that interests you. For example, currently hotly debated topics are PFAS, per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances in the environment. Pharmaceuticals are there, microplastics are there. So, well, having said that, I welcome you to our online environmental engineering graduate program. I'm very accessible, approachable. Student can contact me anytime they feel like. I mean, most of the student have my cell phone number. They can do FaceTime, chat, texting. Anything is welcome. I try to answer the questions in a timely manner, but sometimes, I know we are all going through these circumstances. The pandemic is going on, and given these circumstances, I totally understand the situation. However, having said that, please keep me posted if anything happens or any emergency situation arises. I work with students before the final grades, obviously. After the final grades, it's very difficult to kind of navigate through that murky administrative waters, So, but anytime you have trouble or any issues, maybe it's related to homework or anything, please don't be shy. Reach out to me, and I'll be very happy to answer all your questions. Okay, so having said that, I welcome you to our online environmental engineering graduate program at Cal State Fullerton. See ya. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I hope that you enjoyed hearing a little bit of something about our other faculty members. Moving on, I wanted to say a little bit about myself as well, since you had some introduction from the other faculty members. I have 3 boys. They're all young, so life is pretty busy for me, hence me hanging out in the garage when I try to get work done, even if it is 102 degrees. And I have a lot of hobbies. I'm an avid cyclist, mountain biking and road biking, both really like photography and woodworking and lots of different other hobbies that I've got as well. My life has become a little bit more complicated with the kids, but other than that, it's a lot of fun doing that. And my research focuses on the use of plants with environmental applications. So, for example, some of the research that I'm doing right now, actually, right now, my research is a little bit slower, but in the past, I've focused on algae, trying to use algae for biofuels, trying to use plants for green roofs, Green roofs are a cool technology that allow us to reduce the thermal load on a building while also sequestering carbon dioxide in the plants. And then I also focused on environmental restoration using plants to help clean up the environment, whether that be a wetland environment or a upland environment. Okay, so I wanted to, like I said, just wanted to let you know a little bit about myself. And now we will go ahead and go back to our presentation. So online learning, you guys are all online learning. I imagine you gave it some thought before you joined an online master's program, because of course there are some advantages and some disadvantages. In many ways, online learning is more difficult than face-to-face. You don't really get that motivation. With a face-to-face class, for example, you have to essentially be there 1 to 3 times a week, and you get that face-to-face interaction with your faculty member. Because we don't have that necessarily, it's really important that you have good time management skills and that you really focus on your time management and self-motivation, because you need to be able to actually get in there and get that material read. And it's very easy to say to yourself, oh, no big deal, I'll watch that video lecture tomorrow. But then tomorrow turns into the next day and the next day. And quite frankly, one of my favorite sayings as a procrastinator myself, as opposed to an amateur procrastinator, one of my favorite sayings used to be, why put it off till tomorrow, but you could do the next day. Anyway, it's really important that you keep up with our lectures and with the homework assignments. The lectures and homework assignments tend to play off of each other. So the homework is there to reinforce the lecture. But then if you wait and get behind, it's really hard to catch back up. So you need to stay up with the lectures as much as possible. We have as much homework as you would see in a normal class, in a face-to-face class, but less opportunity to form study groups. One of the reasons we have the cohort model, some places the cohort model is very strict. You need to stay with the cohort or you are in big trouble. Ours is more relaxed and it's intended for your benefit. One thing's kind of neat about the cohort model is that you come in, you take the same classes in the same sequence as everyone else, which means that if you spend the time in your first or second semester to develop collaboration or a study group with other students, you can expect that those students will be with you as you move through the entire 10 classes in the program. And there are some, I think most of our classes have a group project in them, so you can work in the group project together if that is the instructor allows. And it's just something that we really recommend that you spend that time at the beginning to really form a study group that you can travel with through the program. Of course, the advantage to online learning is the time flexibility. You're able to be with your children, be with your career during the day, do your classes maybe in the early morning or in the evening after everyone's asleep. Kind of like myself, like I started doing this recording while the kids were napping. They're awake now, but my wife has them. No big deal. I'm telling you too much about my personal life. So the time flexibility is a big advantage. That's why I think the majority of students join an online program. And in the past, at least, I would say somewhere around 90% of our students have been full-time employed during the program as well. So why don't we just make it easier? Why don't we, as the faculty members, say, this is harder being online, so we should maybe water down our curriculum a little bit and make things easier on you. And of course, the answer is that we have an obligation. So we, as faculty members, have an obligation to you, yes, but also to the public. I put a picture of a ring there. I have that ring. It's a steel ring that you wear, stainless steel ring that you wear on your pinky finger of your working hand. And it symbolizes what's called the Order of the Engineers. Dr. Kurwadkar has it as well. It's something that was pretty popular at Missouri University of Science and Technology, where we both went to school. The Order of the Engineers and the ring in particular are to remind us that we have an obligation to the public. As civil engineers and as environmental engineers, we owe the public a great responsibility, because when we make mistakes, for example, if a computer engineer makes a mistake on the newest iPhone, except of course if it's a battery mistake and they start lighting on fire in your purse or your backpack, but if they make a mistake, they do a software patch, people are inconvenienced, but usually they're okay. When civil engineers make a mistake, people die. A lot of people die. In the upper left there, you can see a photograph of a interstate bridge that collapsed outside of Minneapolis. And at the time that collapsed, I was still living in Iowa City, where I did my doctoral work. So I had been over that bridge many times. I had friends in Minneapolis. I had driven across that bridge, really hit close to home when it collapsed. And unfortunately, it was determined after the collapse that it was the engineer's fault and the contractor's fault. The engineer, if I'm remembering the numbers correctly, the engineer had specified a 5/8 inch gusset plates for the steel girders that were under the bridge. and the contractor put in 1/2-inch gusset plates. And it lasted for somewhere around 50 to 60 years. But they were doing a deck rehab. They had some material stockpiled on the deck, which added to the static, or to the dead load of the structure. And then during rush hour, of course, it has to be the worst time. During rush hour, the whole thing came tumbling down. And I don't remember how many fatalities there were, but it was significant. You can see it up on the bottom left there is a dam failure. And I think that's one that was in Idaho. Not as many human fatalities, but somewhere on the order of 100,000 cattle were killed because of that dam failure. And if that's the one that if it's the one I think it is, it failed within a year of being built. It was just a bad design, and it wasn't like a big storm. It just wasn't. It was improperly designed. And then, getting closer to home for environmental engineers, you can see on the upper or on the right side here is the cryptosporidium outbreak that happened in Milwaukee. And that was just in the 1990s. I mean, it happened I was born in the 80s, and so 1993 doesn't seem like that long ago to me. I guess it is longer ago than I care to remember. But this cryptosporidium outbreak affected 400,000 people, roughly half of the population of Milwaukee at the time, because they were supplied by 2 different water systems. And it was completely preventable. They were not monitoring their turbidity levels post-filtration as well as they should have been. And you'll learn all about that in EGC 572, how to control filtration. But they weren't disinfecting properly, and this organism, which is a very common organism, cryptosporidium and giardia, are both very common paramecia, but because of their characteristics, they're hard to kill with this infection. Very easy to remove with filtration because they're fairly large organisms, but they cause what's called like hiker's diarrhea. If you happen to drink water when you're out in the woods and get diarrhea from it, it likely was caused by cryptosporidia or giardia. All that to say, there weren't as many fatalities in that case. There were some people that died in the Milwaukee outbreak, generally the immunocompromised, but 400,000 people got very bad diarrhea, and many ended up in the hospital. So just not a good thing to have on our track record as environmental engineers. So we do have an obligation. That's the whole point I'm trying to make here. This ring symbolizes the obligation that we have to the public, and frankly to you as well. When you get out of this program, you'll likely go off, take the professional engineering exam, get licensed as a PE. And if something like this happens where you make a flub on a design, you'll lose your license. You'll likely be sued for millions of dollars. We don't want that to happen to you. So we're not going to water down the program. Sorry. That said, though, we have a lot of support. Camille on the left there, you've likely already communicated with her. She is our, she's a quarter-time administrative support coordinator that works with our program, and she's great. She responds very quickly to emails. We currently have a student assistant working with us, and I think that will continue on through the fall. Obviously, there's old budget issues, but we don't know if. But you will probably won't contact with him very much. He more works on the back end of things. Like he'll be the one editing this video, for example, once I submit it to him. Jennifer Chang is available for help as well. She's been with the department for probably about 10 years now, and she is great as well. She is our administrative support coordinator for civil engineering. Administrative support coordinator, I'm saying it really quickly. She's the one for civil engineering, so she's very busy, of course. They have a lot of undergraduate students that she works with and graduate students. So Camille is definitely your first line of defense when you need to have a question that has to do with paperwork or administration or even trying to find financial aid. And then Jennifer is a good backup with a lot of experience as well. You see me in the middle there. That's my phone number, and my email address is just garrett.g.struckhoff@fullerton.edu. And then, by the way, the phone number is 657-278, and then those 4 digits that you see there. And then Dr. Mishra is our department chair for civil engineering. I'm a program coordinator. He's the department chair. He actually has access to all the records and transcripts and everything else that at his fingertips, so he can help you out if I'm not available too. This information is also laid out on our program webpage. If you go there under program and then think courses, it's laid out there. In the summer session, you will take 581 and 582. And as I said, those are not available currently in any other semester. So they're only in the summer. In your 3rd semester, you will take, technically this is your 4th semester. So in your 2nd fall semester, you will take EGC 572 and 597. I'm going to talk more about the graduate project coming up because that's one that people often have questions about. And then in your very last semester, you will take 546 and 583. surface water pollution, and air pollution control. Now, some students have decided in the past to take 4 classes per semester. Off the top of my head, I think it's only 2 that actually kept with it and graduated in a year. That's the advantage. If you take 4 classes per semester, so two like a spring, a fall, and a summer, you can graduate in 1 year, and that's great. However, I do not recommend it unless you meet 4 of these 5 criteria. First, that you're single. Second, that you don't have any kids. Third, no job, no friends, which is easier these days with coronavirus. And then last of all, that you're very masochistic and a glutton for punishment. Again, the 4 classes, it could be a lot of information to take in. I recommend starting with 2. And again, if you meet 5 of these criteria in the other direction, married, 4 kids, full-time job, lots of friends, not masochistic, I guess, you could even consider taking just 1, especially in these times right now, coronavirus times. 1 class per semester, I mean. Speaking of that, so just to let you know, if you do take 4 classes per semester, the overall program is slightly cheaper. Just the way that our tuition and fee structure works, I think it ends up saving you around $1,000 to be done in a year versus 2 years. And conversely, if you take 1 class per semester, it ends up costing a little bit more. I don't know what the actual numbers are. Again, that's where Camille could really help you out. She has access to all that information at her fingertips. But it is a slightly more expensive just because our tuition is set up that if you take between 1 and 6 units, it's the same price. So whether you take 1 class or 2 classes, you pay the same tuition. But the fees are lower. The student fees are based on how many hours you have. So again, it could impact your decision there. Let us know if you have questions. Now, I really want to talk about your graduation requirements. Let me just pull up all of these right here. Yes, my computer's a little laggy right now. If you have deficiency courses, you have to complete those in order to graduate. You will have a study plan, and you need to complete all coursework on the study plan. You need to have continuous enrollment, which means that you can't take a semester off without prior approval. There are options to take things like leave of absence or grad 700, but again, you have to maintain enrollment. Really important that you maintain a GPA of 3.0. And we've had students in the past that have had issues where their GPA was like 2.99 because of the way it rounded, and they were not going to let them graduate. So we had to figure out a creative way to, maybe change a B- to a B or something like that. But it's really unfortunate that is the case because if you think about it, a B- and a B+ should cancel out to a 3.0, but they don't always. The way that the computer is set up, whoever set it up apparently was not an engineer. They set it up such that sometimes a B- and a B+ we average out to a 2.99 instead of a 3.0, and we have to talk with the Office of Graduate Studies and let them know, wait a second, that's the same thing, mathematically speaking. And I'm kind of going on there, but in your undergraduate career, there's a joke that D's get degrees, and likely at your undergraduate career, you needed to have probably a 2.0 to graduate. Here it's a 3.0, which means you need to have a B average. So for every B- that you get, you have to have a B+ to cancel that out. For every C that you get, you need an A to cancel out, or like 3 B+. So it's really important that you keep your grades up higher. And this makes sense for a graduate student, a C- is failing. You will not be able to count that on your study plan if you get a C-. That's some word on here. Yeah. So there's no grade forgiveness as there was at the undergraduate level, most likely. So if you get a C- in a class or an F in a class, that's on your record forever. So it's really important to keep your grades up. And that's where I say, a lot of times students will come to me in, let's say, March or April, and they'll say, I got a new job at the beginning of the semester and I thought it was going to be fine, but now I'm failing. And that's where I would say, if you get a new job, or if you have another child, or going through a divorce, or getting married, or any kind of major life change, buying a house, it might make sense to, again, either maybe step down to just take 1 class, or maybe withdraw entirely from that semester. It's going to be a financial hit, of course, but that GPA hit is huge. If you get an F in a class, it is very hard to come back from that. Very hard. Yeah. So talk to me first, but really consider withdrawing from courses to protect that GPA. And the withdrawal date is usually pretty late. I mean, I think you can withdraw into like mid-April for a spring semester, probably somewhere around November for a fall semester. So if you, after the first midterm, if your grade is low, that's something you might really want to consider is a withdrawal. I'm not trying to scare you. Let me rephrase that. I'm not trying to scare you too much, but I do want you to know that now that I've been program coordinator for a couple of years, I've seen students struggle, and unfortunately students not pass, or not, not graduate, and it's really unfortunate because it's not like you can leave and come back. You can't. That GPA thing is forever. You can go to a different school, that's fine, but yeah. Once you get that F on your transcript, it's really hard to come back from that. Mentioned a study plan on the last slide. It's essentially an agreement between me as a graduate advisor, you, and the Office of Graduate Studies. It outlines the 30 units of coursework that you will complete. Every grade needs to be passed with a C or better, and a C- is considered failing. So C- does not count. That's really important to keep in mind. And most of our students do get, in the graduate level. For some of my classes, like it'll be 15 A's and 15 B's, and that's about it. So I'm kind of an easy grader. Spoiler alert. But it's not hard to maintain a C unless life gets you. It's not hard to earn a C or better, but sometimes life gets you down. You get fired, you get hired. All kinds of things can happen that really take away from your ability to maintain that time management and self-motivation that I was talking about before. So just keep that in mind, please, as you go through this program. We will submit your study plan before 13 units have been completed, except in the case where you haven't completed your deficiency courses, which I'll say right here. My policy is that if you have not completed your deficiency courses, we will not submit your study plan. So get those done soon. The last thing we want you to do is do all 10 courses in our program and then come back later and realize, oh, I still need to take chemistry. Because the whole point is to take chemistry at the beginning as soon as possible in order to do well in your coursework. In environmental engineering, you'll find is very chemistry heavy. Less so on the physics and the calculus, but we definitely need to be strong with chemistry. This is what the study plan looks like. In our program, because it is a cohort model, pretty much everyone takes the same 10 classes. And that's just to add to that, it is possible. For example, I have a student right now who already has a master's in hydrology. So we took some of these classes, the 571 class, for example, and substituted that for a different class within the university. It's harder because there aren't as many online options. So if you live closer, it's easier, or if you live close to a different university, you could take a course there and transfer it in. So it's always an option. But for the majority of students, especially those students coming without an engineering degree, these 10 classes are perfect for lining you up and getting you ready for the PE exam. Yeah, deficiency classes, a lot of you don't have these. If on your acceptance letter or wherever it was given to you, if it mentions that you need 428 and 441, which is our fluid mechanics and environmental engineering courses, just know that those are waived if you pass the 570 and 571 courses with a grade of B or higher, because that material is covered in those classes. And you can see we've got 2 semesters of calculus, 2 semesters of physics that's calculus based, and 2 semesters of chemistry, and that's all laid out in the course website too. We will not use a lot of differential equations, but it's definitely part of the program, particularly when you get to the surface water hydrology course, surface water pollution course. I know Dr. Kurwadkar likes to include differential equations, and in the past has been known to even include them on his exams. So we can talk about that. If you have that on your deficiencies, just keep it in mind that you need to have some kind of introduction to differential equations before you get to that class. And then we do use a lot of chemistry. I recommend that one as soon as possible, and then hammering off. If you check off 1 or 2 courses per semester, that's going to really help you out in the program, getting through the calculus and the physics and chemistry. Okay, so oftentimes students ask, as an online student, why do I have to pay the same student fees that everyone else pays? And the reason is twofold, I would say. Cal State Fullerton, we're not an online campus. Primarily, we are a class with we're a campus with lots of parking lots, lots of students who come in every single day to take courses. So they, at the university level, haven't delineated new students that are online as any different than face-to-face students. And in a way, I think that's actually kind of a good thing. So, for example, as a student, you can take advantage of the childcare. We have a really good childcare program on campus. In the past, I've sent my kids to school there all three of them have gone there. So we have that a bit available for you. I think students pay $7.50 an hour and faculty pay like 11 something an hour. So it's subsidized for students. There's a rec center, there's a student union. And again, if I want to go to the rec center as a faculty member, I have to pay a fee, like a monthly. It's over $100 a month, I think, to be a member of the rec center as a faculty member, completely free for students. So you're paying for that with your student fees. And I understand that you are online. Many of you don't live near Orange County or CSUF at all. And I'm sorry that you have to pay campus fees. But again, it's because you have, and the Career Center too. So you have access to everything that students have access to because you are a student. There is no delineation. There's nothing on your transcript. There's nothing anywhere that's going on your diploma that's going to say that you were an online student. So you have to pay the same fees everyone else pays. But you do get to save on parking. In addition to the campus fees, there's also online fees that you do pay, and those are because online education has a different cost than face-to-face education, and it's funded differently. So it's $33 per semester hour, which means it's roughly $100 per class, and that's included in that $15,000 total that I mentioned before. Sorry, under $15,000 total. But that's used entirely for you. That I think they're called like Class C funds or Title C funds or something like that. It's used to fund Camille's position. That the quarter of her salary comes from those online fees. We go through training. We've gone through training, something called Quality Matters and other kinds of training for better online education as faculty members. It pays for the orientation. If we were actually face-to-face and had the ability for you guys to come into campus and do an orientation, we generally have some food there and nice little snacks, and we get to know each other, and it's nice. When we are face-to-face, when we're in a normal environment, we provide you guys a testing center on campus. All of our exams in the past have been done through testing centers. It costs a little bit of money, but it gives us and you the peace of mind that people aren't cheating on the exams. But when we do the testing center on campus, we generally would provide pizza or some other kind of lunch for that too. So those online fees are intended to circle back and come back to the faculty members. It provides actually even the support that I have. I'm able to teach 2 fewer classes, and that have to hire a part-time faculty to cover that, and that comes out of the online fees too. But that makes it so that I'm available for you guys as your graduate advisor too. All right. So speaking of exams, they're normally taken at a NCTA-approved proctor testing center. And again, we don't know how long COVID's going to last, so this may be true for you next semester even, or maybe next fall. The cost runs around $25 to $35 per exam, and usually we want you to have them done. You can read that there. We want you to have it done by the Tuesday after the exam is scheduled. This semester, and again, it's up to the instructor's discretion. It says that in the text there, when they want the exam to be done, because it'll be online this semester instead of in a testing center. That might change. It might just be that you have the weekend to complete the exam. We'll see. And again, it's up to your instructor. And then we do normally offer a testing center on campus, 1 Saturday per exam, so 2 times a semester for those close enough to drive. There's a list of testing centers that are approved by NCTA. I have no idea what that stands for, by the way. Probably like the national something. And it's possible that if for example, we've had students in the past that had to travel overseas for work. And so in that case, we asked their supervisor, particularly if the supervisor is a licensed engineer, we asked them to proctor the exam instead. Because, engineers are one of the most trustworthy professions out there. So if you can't trust them, who can you trust? As a proctor, I mean. There are midterms and finals for this semester, as I mentioned just a minute ago. And then I wanted to mention this EGC 597, the graduate project, a little bit for you too. Just to let you know, not to be too worried about it. The idea in our program, because we are an online program, is not that you're going to do original research. So, when you look at master's programs, there's often 2 ways that they're described. Sometimes they're described as a practice-based, and sometimes they're described as research-based. And ours is more practice-based. So we're teaching you how to be an engineer, how to be a practicing engineer, and then also how to do research. So the idea of the 597 course is not to, get in the lab, get dirty or, mix chemicals together and see what happens. It's more about writing a paper. In this case, it's a 5,000 word paper. It used to be 10,000, and I got decided that was too much. It's a 5,000 word paper that you write for the whole semester. It's a quarter of the grade, I think, or a third of the grade. You locate, read, and cite 20 to 50 articles. So we learn about how to find articles and how to properly cite them. We boil that all down to a 15-minute oral defense that you'll probably do via a video this semester. And in the past, there were 7 lectures and 5 assignments. So it wasn't a lecture every week. It was a lecture every other week, and then an assignment every third week. That included identifying plagiarism and avoiding plagiarism. Hopefully, a lot of you guys know what that means, but a surprising number of you will think that it is completely okay to find information on the internet, copy it, and paste it into your paper as long as you cite it. And you'll learn that that's not okay. It's not okay to just copy and paste things, unless obviously you're allowed to quote things and you're allowed to quote and cite, but you should only quote. Now I'm becoming the professor again, but you should only quote material that, if it were written in your own words, it would lose the impact. So we quote Einstein, for example. We quote MLK, Desmond Tutu. These are people that are worth quoting. They have great ideas that, spoken in a different way in your own words, would not have the same impact. We do not quote your Aunt Jill, right? Because no one knows Aunt Jill, and frankly, we don't know if she knows what she's talking about. So we don't, anything that you find online really should be rewritten in your own words to avoid plagiarism. There you go. That's your little tidbit. I've taught 597 most of the time. We will talk about how to do a research proposal. We'll talk about different parts of a paper, how to critique research articles, aka identify bad science, conducting a literature review, creating a research plan, conducting research, and then a little bit about data analysis and presentation too. So we go through all of the information, and my goal when I first put this class together, 597, which I did put together, was to provide all of the information that I learned as a graduate student when I was sitting with my advisor or my mentor in his office. Generally I would meet with my mentor once a week. We would have long conversations about how to write, how I was writing poorly, and what I could do better to better convey my information. And I like to, in 597, I like to try to portray that information to you guys as thoroughly as possible. And then also you have to write a fairly long paper too. 5,000 words is roughly 50 pages, is that right? I think about it, maybe it's usually 250 words per, okay. 250 words per double space page. So that would be 20 pages. Math. So 20 page paper, it used to be 40. 20 page double space. The research topic is up to you in 597, but it needs to just be within the realm of environmental engineering. People have loved to report on hydraulic fracturing, which is also called fracking. You've probably heard of fracking. Climate change. What's the one that goes with climate change? Sea level rising. Yes, that's the other one. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which if you haven't heard of that, I recommend Googling it. It is terrifying. Desalination is a big topic in much of the world. Water rights in California is something we've talked about in the past, because you will take an environmental law course in this program. So water rights are, again, crazy in California, but they are the way they are. And then rarely used and possibly not even allowed option is to conduct individual research with one of the program faculty. And the reason I say that it may not be allowed is that we just this semester, actually in the spring semester, realized or discovered or were told that using EGCE 598, which is the thesis option, isn't actually a recognized exit option from our program, whereas EGCE 597 is. So just keep that in mind. If you want to do research with Dr. Kurwadkar or myself or Dr. Kuo or Dr. Mishra in the future, you're welcome to inquire, but it may not be a thesis type project. It might have to be something where you do a smaller project that would then be a 597 size, 5,000 word paper. But it's really fun when it works. I've had 2 students come through the program that did research with me. So mostly we just have to do a program change, but that takes years to go through, or at least a year. I wish that you guys were here so that when I start rambling on and going off topic, that I could look at your eyes and realize that you're starting to glaze over, and then I would get back on topic more quickly. But that is not the case. We must be self-motivated and time-oriented and move on to the next slide. All right. So in less than 2 years, you're going to be walking out of here with a master's in environmental engineering. And that's pretty awesome. For many of you, you've come in with a degree in something completely unrelated. I mean, maybe it's environmental studies, maybe it's biology, chemistry, physics, mechanical engineering, petroleum engineering, lots of different backgrounds for those of you that are coming through this program. And by the way, I recommend, if you can, talk to your fellow students. They've got a lot of different perspectives than you do. I almost have to assume that. But you're gonna be walking out here with a master's in environmental engineering, and that's pretty awesome. Will it be easy? Nope, I don't think it will. Some of the classes are easier than others. That 573 class, for example, is it's an overview of environmental law, project management, and environmental economics. So you don't get too deep into anything, which makes it, I think, a little bit easier than some other classes. But Dr. Kurwadkar's surface water pollution class generally seems to be a little tough for students because it's very complicated when you're just starting to look at like plume development in surface waters and ocean waters. So it won't be easy. But then again, nothing that's worth doing is ever easy. Is it? Nothing's free. Will it be worth it? Absolutely. You absolutely will find, as I said before, I think this is a very valuable program in terms of just the value of what you're going to get out of it. For an in-state student paying $15,000, I think you're going to look back and say that was a wonderful investment. I look forward to shaking your hand in person. Until then, signing off. Kind of feel like making a Star Trek joke, but I will restrain myself. And again, I'm your graduate advisor as well as your program coordinator. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Camila is a wonderful resource as well. Let her know if you have any questions too, and we'll make sure this happens for you guys. Have a great day.